Pnawn da, croeso i cyfarfod, diolch am bawb am dod. Hello and welcome to Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council Thriving Scrutiny on Tuesday the 23rd of September 2025. Please note that this meeting may be recorded and broadcast by the authority's internet site. Any person in the view of camera is, by virtue of attending, consenting to be filmed, and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings being used as outlined. Images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I have apologies from Howard Jackson and Councillor David Jones. That's it. Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Item agenda 2, declarations of interest. Okay. Item agenda 3, minutes of previous meetings. Is everybody okay with the minutes? Anything for accuracy? Yes.
Yeah, I think you're fine. Everything good.
Okay, great.
Are we going to take a vote on it, Chair?
No, I just asked now. No.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as you know.
Yeah, no vote. Item agenda 4, action logs. All actions are now complete.
Yes, I sent an email earlier on this morning for anything outstanding.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Item agenda 5, biodiversity and green space management. Do restrict the officers, yeah.
I'm assuming
David's not here, is he? So, yeah. Jill, are you presenting?
It's getting on the screen now.
Yeah.
I come in, I'm here.
Yay! Eating all the sweets, that's why.
Listen, I've just bloody rushed back from work to do this. I've been in work since 7, thanks.
Oh, half day.
I'm not sure who's presenting. I'm just here to answer your questions. So,
Jude?
Chair, yeah, we weren't aware the Cabinet member wasn't attending, but I'm happy to read the summary to present the report, and then officers will answer questions, if that's okay?
Yeah, great.
Okay. The report updates members on recent accomplishments and provides an insight into the challenges encountered regarding the maintenance of biodiversity and green spaces. The report aims to enhance committee members' understanding of our response to the Environment Wales Act Section 6 obligations through the proactive development and management of open spaces as outlined in the Open Space Strategy. The purpose of the report, therefore, is for Scrutiny to note and debate and provide a critical friend challenge on the findings and the implementation of the goals of the Merthyr Tydfil Nature Recovery Plan, together with the Merthyr Tydfil Open Space Strategy. Committee members will note there are a number of appendices attached which amplify many of the points noted in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Let's open up to questions. Councillor Layton?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know who's going to answer this. Is it Jill or Judith or whoever? It's around the obviously the projects that are already going. There's one up here, the Central Reservation in Dowlas, and I have been out with other members to look at all the areas that are, being covered by biodiversity, and everything is amazing. My concern is, Declan done it 4 times this year, and we're happy to do that because I always said to Gillian we would support that, and that's great. But my concern is if they didn't get SPF and they got to lose staff, what happens to these areas? Are we then looking at putting projects on hold?
Can you say that again, Paul? You hear that? There was a drill just outside the door.
I thought he was all pulling. I thought he was all pulling faces at me. I was thinking, have I said something wrong?
Did
you hear me, Jill?
Yeah, I heard you. Yeah. Do you want me to wait?
Yeah. I just it means you're on the screen, Jill. It's just, as you know, we've always said we're happy to support. We do it up here, biodiversity. But my concern is, I suppose for you as well, is if you lose that support, what happens to ongoing projects or projects coming up? Do you put them on hold?
So I think I've written quite a bit in obviously your scrutiny report and exactly your concern there. So basically, I am the only core member of staff in the council doing biodiversity. Everyone else is grant funded. So I'll go back to Dowlais Central Reservation in a minute, if that's okay. If we lose the grant money, that's LMP money and that is SPF money, then basically, if you imagine all the projects that I've done, will just come under me and will come under Mark and the grounds maintenance team to manage. Now, there are certain projects which are obviously quite sensitive, which obviously need skill and understanding in terms of ecology, biodiversity, conservation to do that. With all these grants, the biggest problem I have is there is no maintenance fee. There's absolutely zero maintenance fee with any of this. So you can imagine the pressure of each year when the grants come in, we obviously bid for them to change and transform places in Merthyr that need it. We then have to go back and try and maintain those other spaces that we've been doing for year on year on year on year. So the pressure of obviously, for me, I'm statutory bound. So I've got my statutory duties to the council. I obviously deliver the LMP, which is the Local Places for Nature grant. And then I obviously supervise over the Shared Prosperity Fund as well. So time is kind of, limited and strewn between all these places, and you're also trying to do new projects. So Dowlais Reservation, going back to your question there, I know yourselves have obviously done that. It hadn't had any maintenance for years. So last year was its first cut. Now, we noticed that quite a lot of plants, because when that project was done, the contractors at the time basically didn't do it in time. So the planting season that they did it in was the wrong season. So a lot of plants died. So last year, through the SPF funding and to our own funding in LMP, we planted a huge amount of planting. Now, I know obviously yourselves have gone in there to kind of get those zigzag lines. And we've gone in there as well ourselves. But basically, back to your question, who maintains it? If all the staff go, it's me and grounds maintenance. And then it's reliant, I guess, on community groups like yourself to help.
Yeah, I suppose that's the concern, because you work hard and I've seen you work, I've been to different sites. But then when it comes down to it again, it's out there for, as you say, members or volunteers. And then the area it's in it's not suitable for taking volunteers on there, being a central reservation. So yeah, but thanks for answering anyway, Jill. Thank you.
That's okay.
Thanks, both. Any further questions?
I got a question, Chair.
Councillor Smith?
We talk into this report, and we've got like 3 reports: grass cutting, planting, maintenance. How do we know? How can we tell the public what maintenance people are doing? Because, for example, we go Lakeside. There's a lot of work done Lakeside on grass cutting and looking after the land. We got the Gunners, which are social housing. They run by Merthyr Valley Homes. We got somewhere else. So people are getting confused what other groups are doing. How can we fit it all in together and tell people what's happening?
Do you mean what I'm doing? Or
What anybody's doing, what anybody's doing at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, people just don't know what's happening.
So, okay, so yes, you're right. So basically we use a lot of social media. We use our Merthyr Tydfil Biodiversity Partnership page to promote a lot of the work that we do, or volunteer groups, or anything that's happened there. Yayan, who is one of the LMP officers, he actually does a newsletter which goes out to the partnership to promote everything we do. In terms of social media, again, as you can imagine, it is only me doing it, as in kind of my team send me posters, events, our photos of stuff. It's me having to upload all the time. So we do as much as we can. In terms of Merthyr Valley Homes, they are on the partnership. So anything that they need promoting, they can send to me and I can promote what they do. Or if we partnership work with them, then I'll promote them as well, like we do with all our other partners on the partnership.
So the other question is, how can we work closer together to get information out?
Well, quite a lot of the councillors are on the Facebook page, so a lot of them share what's going on. So how do you get it out there? I guess it's down to you guys kind of promoting and publicising what we do. I mean, as you can imagine, I'm not a media officer. We certainly do what we can. We've got a public engagement officer now who is only been in post 2 months, I think, at the moment. So she's starting to do an awful lot of media stuff to get out there. But obviously it comes down to people resource, Bill. Do you know what I mean? We're a small team.
We'll accept that 100%, right? But how do we get there? Because I'm looking there now, we've got the golf fields in Crowther Park.
Yeah.
£30,000. We don't use it as a golf, do we? So I
No. But then I'm not part of that, am I? So you've got to remember.
Well,
No.
Maybe Mark wants to come in and comment.
Yeah. Yeah. As I say, at the moment, the parks is kept as part of our general maintenance for Cyfarthfa Park. But I totally understand what you say, Councillor Smith, that we need to do a more coordinated approach. Maybe get this information out on the web page. We do it through a councillor's updated from a street scene point of view. So we do that every month. So the projects that we do, the work that we undertake is included in that. But as you say, we can take it on board. As I say, we can look at doing a more coordinated approach to make sure we cover everything that we do within street scene.
I just come in. In terms of like what Bill is saying, would say like Gurness is social housing and Merthyr Valley zones. They'll come along and they'll mow it, and then they'll see the council land then that's not cut, and they're like, oh well, they're having that cut. Oh, we're like Lakeside Gardens, 2 foot high. They go up to Gurness. It's like a bowling green. So it's not marrying up. Are they working in partnership in terms of 6 weeks cuts? Jill, do you want to come in?
So, okay, I understand your concerns there, but us as a local authority have to abide by legislation. So my concern is not Merthyr Valley Homes or Merthyr Housing or the police or the fire station. They're all got their own agenda, and Merthyr Valley Homes do speak to us when they can about their grass cutting. At the end of the day, us as a local authority are abiding by the Environment Act, and we have to follow that legislation. So Merthyr Valley Homes are not a statutory body like us, so we have to follow that legislation. So as much as I can promote to Merthyr Valley Homes what we're doing, I can't make them do anything.
But the point I'm trying to get across is they are saying that cut. You're not telling the residents why you're not cutting grass. They and it wasn't being cut due to biodiversity. It was being not cut because of lack of staff. And we're not getting messages out to our residents to tell them. I'm not blaming you, Jill. I mean, we have got comms within our local authority, and these messages need to be going out and educating.
So I have done an awful lot of publications. I have done more event work than you can imagine about grasslands. I have done internal training about grasslands. I have done training to all councillors on grasslands too. I've done that several times over several years now. We have to abide by that. Since 2020, as you would have seen in the scrutiny reports previous, it shows you that Grant has taken on board certain machinery for cutting. I don't deal with verges. Well, I do to a degree, but I am mainly looking at our biodiversity sites and trying to improve our biodiversity sites. There's 20 of them. I am trying to improve them. If I could do the whole borough and do as biodiversity sites, it'd all be grass. It'd all be grass and it wouldn't be bowling greens. I promote as best I can through a lot of the publications that you will have in your appendices. Why we cut when we cut, also the information on why we do kind of it for nature conservation, pollinators, flooding, etc., etc. So we will be doing a lot more publications now because we've changed a lot of the grass and management. There'll be new training coming out. Amy is going to be doing internal training again for staff and yourselves again. And there will be more going out to the public. But again, we do have internal comms, which I'm lack of kind of contacting them to kind of promote it more and more so. They have done in the past though. But I generally promote it on our Facebook pages. And that's the only way I can do it, and event work.
Before I call you,
Can you come in as well, Chair?
well, Mark, do you want to come in?
I'll come in when.
Yeah, Mark, do you want to come in?
As I say, our grass cutting schedule takes into account obviously the legislation that Jill has taken there, and also the resources that we have at hand to do the cutting. So basically, we cut as we do at the moment, as I say, just to make sure we are coming within that legislation. And as I say, due to the fact that our resources are short, and we do what we can when we can.
Okay. I think Jamie wanted to come in on that point, and then I'll bring David in.
Yeah, obviously I know it's not my portfolio area, but like there's obviously 4 things I can take back to Cabinet and we can look at as well, and that's obviously, we understand that from a perspective of members, there's a bit of coordination that needs to happen, as been said by officers, in terms of what's going on from different people, making sure it gets to the right place. I think what would be useful, if I can go back to comms, that we can actually recommend that there's sort of like, I don't know, like a link put together for all councils in terms of the different pages that are active where these messages are being sent. Because as an example, I didn't know about the biodiversity page as an example. It's there, but I'm not aware of it. So I think that would be useful for all councillors if we've got a sort of list of all the different pages where they are with us, Facebook, social media, and what's being sent out. So at least we've got some control and know where messages are going. And you are right in terms of what goes out on comms, like we need to be clear in terms of what we're responsible and what other people are responsible for. And that might mean directing people to estates as well, so if they've got questions, they can check with the GIS map interface in terms of what land is owned. So it might not be a case of us always having the answers, but telling residents you can contact estates on this address and they'll be able to tell you who's responsible for that land and the upkeep. I know, and that's the same for my area of responsibility as well. There's stuff within the WHQS in terms of conservation of green space, so there might be things that go into a housing area as well in terms of why land is treated the way that it is. So I think they're all relevant points. I know David's not here today, but I'll make note of everything anyway, and we'll take it back and discuss with comms and Cabinet in terms of how we can take those things forward as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, that just repeats what I was going to say, that I wasn't even aware of this Merthyr Tydfil Biodiversity Partnership page. So, you know, Julian's right, you know, we've got to tie up with comms so people are aware of this. There's a lot of work going on, and, you know, and people are not aware. I understand resources are tight, but a lot of people always complain to me about the grass cuttings are not picked up. I understand that's lack of resource, but that grass cuttings can go to our recycling target, which we're also needing to do. So, you know, if we're not picking up, we need to explain to people via comms why we're not doing it, because, you know, people don't understand.
Yeah. Jill, do you want to come back in there?
Yeah, just to add into what you're saying there, Facebook, in terms of Facebook page, a lot of councillors are obviously on our Facebook page anyway, so they do know about it. The Merthyr Tydfil Facebook page itself, the Merthyr Council, they are also aware of our page because we're both friends of each other. So it's a case of lack of sharing information maybe, and that's where we need to promote biodiversity. Generally, I mean, our page has been going since I've been in the council, 13 odd years. And then a few years ago, it got taken down and then I put it back up again. So, you know, we're building our followers again. So that is just linkage. The Merthyr Council communication officers do know about our page. It's just sharing. In terms of sites with the grass cutting, just to kind of reiterate the two different elements, where you're saying about the grass being left on the ground, which a lot of it is, we have two machines which are only big enough to either do a football pitch or to do 1.8 metres wide. The smaller areas, there is no machinery to pick that up. There's nothing small enough to pick that up. So my team have been looking into this for a long time. So like where you've got residence verges, things like that, or even like say where we were looking at Lakeside Garden, Lee, you know, those are really small areas. I cannot get my correct machinery to cut it and suck it all up. We have been collecting all the grass now for this season now, so there are 2 cuts which go towards all our green waste targets. We have collected all that information so I can tell you all the tonnage for each site that we are collecting. We've also got the information on even rubbish that is on those sites now. So we're collecting a lot of information to now look at obviously species increase, because that's why we're doing it. We're looking at green waste targets, so that goes towards our green waste tonnage. We're also looking at the rubbish to see where rubbish is collecting, so we actually know now where rubbish is on the street to help with street cleansing. So there's a lot of going on behind the scenes that maybe the council's not aware of. What I would like to do in the future is obviously collate all this information and put it into, say, a small kind of newsletter, so you understand how much, you know, we're collecting, what we're kind of using that towards, how we've increased kind of species or help with carbon dioxide, etc. But it takes a team and it takes an awful lot of information, and it takes a couple of years to gather that data too. So we are looking at that, just so you're aware of that too. But the machinery is the key to all of this, because if the grass is being left on the ground, I don't want that, because that doesn't help with pollinators. The nutrients go back in the ground, and that's when you get the scrub coming up, which they don't like. I am still looking into smaller machinery, and again it comes down to grants then to try and find that money, because it's big money. And then it's the ongoing maintenance of these machines. So currently there is 2 very good machines which my team and grounds maintenance team are using, and obviously there's a lot of training that had to go into that, and it's a lot of resource, because obviously you're collecting all the grass, so it takes some time to kind of have like about 4 or 5 people doing this circular route of cutting, collecting, dropping, cutting, collecting, dropping. But we can only do that for the bigger sites at the moment. So the smaller sites, I'm still looking into getting that machinery.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Right, I've got 2 questions and 1 for clarification. And I think the first 2 questions are probably for Mark Paniers. Let's stick with the grass cuttings for a start. And on page 13, under 5.56, I'll read that small paragraph. Grass cuttings are not removed during this process and are left on site, in brackets, due to lack of resources. Cutting grass without collecting the arisings is not beneficial for wildflower pollinator growth. For me to understand, and other members here, and the public for that matter, perhaps we can go into why the grass cuttings are left there. I know it's been mentioned as a lack of resources, but they used to be collected. You'd have a machine, larger machine going along, where they would have to empty perhaps the large box there every so often, and perhaps other stuff to clean it up. My understanding that wherever they cut now, and I presume it's staff under you, Mark, They are left everywhere, and the public certainly do not understand it. Now, you say there's a lack of resources. How many staff have you got? 'Cause, for example, they've just cut up where I happen to live in Lakeside Gardens today, and it's been left. Left in the middle of the estate, the green area, and all the green areas you come in on the one side there. If you cut roundabouts and you cut in roundabouts, it's left there. It does seem to me a lack of judgment, some within the authority, as a result of the staff being cut so severely that it's impossible to pick up the cut-ins. As it was just explained, if all these cut-ins were picked up throughout the county borough, that then goes towards the tonnage, which the local authority in this moment in time are desperate to increase to achieve the 70%. So, staff being cut, it may have happened before your time, Mark. How many staff have been cut? How many staff have you got available to cut the grass? And is anybody looking at the fact that the grass cut-ins are not doing any good lying there, and furthermore, they should be going towards the 70% target recycling?
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, as I say, in the perfect world, we would be moving the grass cuttings. At the moment, we've got 4 teams of 3 staff, 3 permanent staff. I've been told on good authority, back in the day, going back a few years, mind, there used to be 8 teams of 5 staff. So you can see the reduction that we've had in staff. So the problem in moving grass, as Jill has already said, after it's been cut, it's resource intense. So you either got to have the right equipment, or you have a number of staff on the ground that can actually do that type of work. And at the moment, as I just explained, I say we've got 4 teams with 3 staff. A lot of the grass cutting work is done by a ride-on mower, and as I say, and that basically helps us get ahead of our cycles. If we had a more of a lawnmower approach, we could probably collect the grass a bit more easily. But because we use these ride-on mowers, they go ahead, cut the grass, and the teams come behind and tidy up after that, after the ride-on mowers have been there. So again, it is purely down to resource. It's not having enough staff on the ground to do it. And as Jill has explained earlier, it's about having the right equipment to collect on these small areas of land that we don't collect at the moment.
So, Jay, you haven't got the right equipment or the right number of staff. Is that correct?
Yeah, as I say, the reduction we had in staff doesn't allow us to do what we used to do, basically. So we have, unfortunately, got to leave that grass in that area.
So you might not know the answer to this one. You may do. In the past, who picked up the grass cuttings? Was that done manually, or did they have a machine that automatically collected it?
That's a good question. I can't really answer that. It's again, I would assume it would have been staff that had done it, but did it? Sorry. Yeah. So I can't really answer that.
Well, is it possible for yourself and others to look at this again? Because the 2 points, the grass cuttings being left there are not doing any good for pollination, etc. And we're missing a trick in picking this up in the county borough to have desperately needed increase in the tonnage to reach the 70% target.
I totally agree with you. And as I say, it's where we want to be in the ideal world, we would be collecting all the grass that we have. As I say, it helps us. It helps with the biodiversity, the pollinators, and it also helps with our recycling targets. So if we could do it, it would be ideal. But unfortunately, we're in a position at the moment where it's not achievable.
But are you in a position to go back and talk to others about, because there's obviously 2 reasons to have just given that it could be done?
Yeah, it could be done, as I say, but as I say, it's done. I think it's done in other authorities, but as I say, as where we are at the moment, we're not able to do it. But as I say, we can look into it. As Jill said, she can look into getting grants to get the equipment that we need. Whether that's possible, as I say, we will look into it. But as it stands at the moment, we can't do it.
Right. Can you clarify something for me, both yourself and Jill, because even I'm confused. Grass cutting, I've always understood to be carried out by council employed directly staff. But it seems that there's staff that Jill's got who also does the grass cutting. So who's responsible for what?
As I say, for the grass cutting cycles, it's the grounds maintenance team. So it's staff, co-funded staff employed by the council. Jill's team, SPF funded.
Yeah.
At the moment, as I say, it shouldn't really be part of their job, but we're in a situation where we need to do a lot of cross-working. So Jill's SPF team and the local place of nature officers, as I say, we help each other out. It's cross-working. So we are in a position where at the moment, we can help each other out. But in the future, if we lose these grants, then obviously that will be a bit more difficult.
Yeah, okay, thanks. My other question, which I think is for you.
But yeah, I don't know, Jill, did you want to come in on that point?
Just a very quick one, where you were talking about the green tonnage. So in an ideal world, yes, all that tonnage would go to green waste. But where we send our green tonnage, there is also restrictions on what plants can and can't go into the green tonnage. So that also complicates things of what we can put in. So as you can imagine, if there was Japanese knotweed, that can't go in. Bryn Quarry, I think it is.
Yeah.
Bryn. They've sent me a whole list of plants that can't go in. So if we do put that in, we then get prosecuted, and we get a hefty fine. So again, it's quite labour intensive that we've also then got to go and check each site to make sure that certain plants are not in that green waste. And then obviously if there's plastics, things like that go into the waste. So obviously rubbish, street cleansing play a huge part in the grass cutting. And I'm not just talking the tonnage that goes off, I'm talking the whole of the borough now. So if we are taking that green waste off, we then cannot have the mowers coming in, cutting crisp packets, things like that, because then you've got microplastics everywhere, which Bryn Quarry, won't take. So it's a really complex kind of thing to organise, and it takes quite a lot of people from myself, my team, obviously the grounds maintenance team, and we're trying to get street cleansing and the waste team all to work collaboratively together to make this a far easier and more smoother operation.
I thought biodiversity was complicated. It's absolutely bizarre. Right, my other question is on page 12, 5.52, and I'll read it. It's under the green space management. We have adopted a differential mowing approach. Mowing intensively recreation areas, in brackets, for example, sport fields, close brackets, regularly, whilst leaving other green spaces, for example, embankments and roundabouts, to regenerate naturally. Well, I've seen roundabouts quite recently which have been cut completely. In fact, there's one as you go up the dual carriageway park on the way to Cavartha Retail Park that has been cut. There's no grass growing 4 foot high there. So
is it the Trunk Road Agency? Because what you'll notice on, so let's put Pentre Bark roundabout.
Yeah.
When as if you're coming down towards the co-op, that's Trunk Road Agency, that roundabout. Right. Now on that roundabout is very special. There's a ton of orchids. And what they do is what we do with our biodiversity sites. They're only cut twice a year. So you'll see it'll be cut in about April, May, any time between March, April, May now. And then they've done it very different this year because obviously the weather. They've cut theirs in August, which generally most people cut in September, October, but the weather has been horrendous. So a lot of the sites that Trunk Road Agency have been doing, which is a lot of the A470, they've cut all in August. So yeah, not all the roundabouts are ours. And we used to have a service level agreement that Parks used to do. But Trunk Road took it back off the council, and they kept their own now with the Profy Hopper, same machinery that we have, but obviously for the larger sites.
Right, I didn't realise that. I should have realised that. So it's contractors engaged by the Trunk Road Agency.
Well,
right.
it's Trunk Road Agency that now cut their own pieces of land. Where before it used to be us, because we used to have an SLA agreement. We don't have that no more. As same as if you're going up to Asda's, up that's Trunk Road Agency. They do all their cutting now themselves. So a lot of the verges in Merthyr are not down to Mark's team cutting anymore.
Right. We used to at one time, while we stick on roundabouts, put a few flowers, you know, whatever they called, but that seems to be disappeared. You see it in other authorities where they put these flowers, which I don't think cost £1 million to put there, but that seems to have stopped. Is there a complex biodiversity reason why that's not being done?
I don't have a budget. So everything I do is grant funded. So there is no budget in the local authority for biodiversity. Not one single penny.
Right. Okay. Right. For clarification, I'm on page 26 of your report. It's the 10th dot down. And it's headed Merthyr Housing Society, and in brackets, Georgetown Villas. So I looked at this, and I think I know what you mean, but I think you refer to the wrong area. It says Merthyr Housing Association approached us for advice on how to develop their grey area to benefit the users of the communal home. Are you talking about the area of, for example, the Daffodils home?
Well, I didn't actually do that. That was Yayin. So Merthyr Valley Homes contacted Yayin because, again, they're on our partnership. And I believe it is where Georgetown is, where the little roundabout is. And you've got the houses going towards Cyfarth. I believe it's behind there and the grey area behind. And we put in some veg beds for them to put in wildflowers.
Right, because you refer to a communal home. Because
I will double check with Yayin because I haven't got the appendices with me. I will double check with Yayin, but I know we've got photos of where it went.
Right. I can't envisage where you are when you mention Georgetown Villas, to be honest with you.
And this is the housing opposite the fish shop, there's the housing, the flats there.
Yeah, but it's not called Georgetown Villas.
No, right.
Anyway, if you can clarify that for me, I'll sleep tonight.
Well, I won't be able to find out tonight because Yain's not in work now.
All right. Phil, do you want
thanks, Chair. It's really an appeal for something which you've alluded to several times. It's both for Mark and for Jill, and it's the issue of collaboration and coordination when it comes to grass cutting. I'm chair of a local community group, and we do quite a lot of litter picking in and around sort of areas like Haleberg and Yswark and Swansea Road. One of the really frustrating things is that when the meter cuts are done, they're not litter picked before those areas. And so the grass cutters, the mowers, whatever machines are being used, go through that litter, and Jill's alluded to crisp bags being shredded. But we're more worried about cans. We're worried about bottles which are smashed, and cans are sliced into extremely sharp pieces of metal which damage dogs. They possibly damage people if they're walking on the grass. And the meter cuts look very, very attractive. I'm a big fan of the meter cuts, but when the meter cuts go through tissue paper and they go through cans, it just spreads the litter and makes it several times worse than it was before. because to some extent, when grass is long, you don't see the litter. When grass is short, if those areas aren't littered, those areas look damn sightless than they were before. And it's an appeal really for some degree of coordination and collaboration, that if busy areas, and I'm not really talking about areas which don't have a lot of litter, but give you one example, is from the retail park in Carmarthen roundabout down to the vets. There's 2 banks on either side. Those are big banks which are cut very attractively with meter cuts, but when those meter cuts often happen, they just spread the litter. And it's an appeal for some degree of coordination, collaboration before those cuts are taken, just to give it a litter pick. You could even, if you wanted to, if we didn't get other people, Mark, get hold of me and I'd arrange for one of our team to go down and do it. Actually, one of a team, one of our volunteers would do it.
As I say, as something that we've alluded to previously, we need to work better within our teams. So coordination is something that we need to pick up between teams to make sure that when we are going to cut these grassed areas, that our street cleansing teams have been in there before, so the litter pick's been done. As I say, it's something we need to improve on. So that's something we will be looking at.
Yeah, that is the answer, if those areas can be picked. And then we're not talking about massive areas, we're talking about attractive areas which are very, very, very busy, which have a lot of footfall and a lot of car fall as well, transport fall.
McDonald's, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't the grass cutters litter pick the areas before they cut the grass?
Yes, they're supposed to, but obviously, again, as we've alluded to previously, there is a time issue with what they need to do with their cycles, so it doesn't always get done. But this is what we're trying to look at, is bringing in our street cleansing teams to try and get that coordination going between different teams and make sure we start getting this right.
What we could do is ask McDonald's to make all their coffee cups green. You wouldn't see them.
Amazing money.
We should stick number plates on them as well.
That's another story.
Well,
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Councillor Thomas?
Thank you, Chair.
John Thomas. Gary Thomas, sorry. Yeah. I
Just
looking
a
how many Thomases are there.
I think on the grass cutting collection around the wards, I think it's due to the amount of cycles that we're doing at the moment. They have dropped, so the grass is getting longer, and so you see cut grass on the floor. When there was regular cuts, there was never any. Clive, he was just went into the grass, but now there are clumps, as you say. I think that area in Georgetown, Clive, is on the road to Jackson Bridge on the right-hand side with the drill hole. That's right. The area there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But a plea from me, really, to the officers is, during what I've been listening to at the moment, we've definitely got a lack of resource in our grass cutting in our teams. And a plea is, please spend the money on the resources and the workforce rather than communications. I think people can see it when it's looking good and when it can't. So I'd rather the money spent on the workforce.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I go on?
Yeah, Councillor Smith.
Mark, how many voluntary groups do we work with? Because Phil runs a group up in the garage. How many groups do we work with to help us grass cutting or picking it up? Because that's a big thing now at the moment, and to phone to get voluntary groups helping you out. Because we haven't got the money, have we? So, have we got a list, or are we getting in touch with people?
I don't think we got a list. I think Jill's got her own team. She's got her own volunteers that she uses. But again, for litter picking, we haven't got lists of volunteer groups that we could use. Again, this is something that we can look at and get together. In previous roles, I worked with a lot of volunteer groups. So it's key, as I say, because of the lack of resources we have in the councils at the moment. If we can get people on board, local people, helping to look after their own areas, then yeah, that would be great. So it's something we need to develop. But again, I'm sorry to keep on about this, but it's that resource issue that we have to get people out there to engage. As Jill said, we've got an SPF officer now, an engagement officer. that maybe we could utilise to do that. But again, it's all about time for these officers and whether they can get out there. But yeah, agree with you again, as I say, if we can encourage volunteer groups in certain areas, it'll help us a lot.
Great, Mark. So you're setting a plan up now ready for next year?
It's something we could look at.
In bits and pieces. So can we have that plan before we kick off in February or something like that? See what's happening.
It's something we can look at, Councillor Smith. Yeah, as I say,
okay.
It's all about getting that
Hey, Mark, you said no. Come on
now. Look, as I say, I've worked with volunteer groups before. I know it works, but again, it's just allowing us to free up the officer to free up time to do it.
Shall I jump in about our volunteers?
Yeah, go on, Joe, jump in.
So we do a volunteer group every Tuesday and Thursday. And basically we have regular volunteers that turn up. We have also got the Compass Hub that turn up on a Tuesday as well with their volunteers. We've Keep Wales Tidy have just done a volunteering day and they've collected names that they send to us. So we've got new people that want to join groups. And Amy has been to Vamped as well. She's our new officer in the SPF, who's the public engagement. She's been to Vamp too, and she's got organised, I think it's in October, a volunteering day that she will promote, obviously, what we do. The problem we have, and it's not that we can't volunteer, you've got a couple of things when it comes to volunteer. Obviously, we don't have the money for PPE equipment, so they all got to come with their own PPE equipment. Most of the time we pay for their teas and coffees and biscuits out of our own pockets, so we don't have a budget for volunteering expenses. We can't pay for their buses because we don't have a budget for that. And then, just to throw into the mix, obviously you've got seasonal kind of weather. Quite often the weather can change overnight and it's too dangerous for them to go out. So depending on the activity we're doing, we've got a number amount of risk assessments that have been, devised over the years. A lot of our volunteers have got severe mental health problems or some kind of physical problem. So you've always got to take into consideration, the people who are coming to you and obviously their needs. Some of them just want a social aspect. Some of them just want to get out the house and say hi. And then I've got one volunteer who had a stroke on me this year while I was taking him to his home. He's got severe bipolar. So it can be very tricky with kind of volunteers in our group because you haven't got a set volunteer officer. Do you know what I mean? It's just us doing our jobs and trying to kind of have those extra hands to do the work that we're trying to do. So, yeah, just to kind of give you up to date on volunteering, I would love it to be a straightforward process, but we always try and do a Tuesday and a Thursday so regular volunteers know. I have a WhatsApp group that they're all on my phone and they all get updated where we're going each week.
Thank you.
Mark, before I put Paul in, Mark, do you want to come in on that point?
Yeah, as I say, as Jill has said, she's got a number of SPF staff. Obviously funding through the shared prosperity funding. We could look at if this funding becomes available in future years, it may be something we look at to get a post in place to actually work with these groups. As I said, in a previous employment, we had an officer purely dealing with volunteers, supporting them, getting their applications filled in and getting all the admin in place as well. So it's something that we could look at in the future if that SPF funding is still available.
Thank you.
Hey, Councillor Layton's next. Councillor Layton.
All right, thanks. No, Jill sort of touched on it with Keep Wales Tidy. I know they got a full list of all the groups that do litter pick because we've had them in the parlour last week. I think it's like 40 plus people. So couldn't you work with them to get them groups on board, Mark, with you? because they work with Keep Wales Tidy like we do up here. You know, we got groups up here, and then they all come together for certain areas or a specific area that you know needs doing.
Yeah, as I say, we work with Mark Davis quite regularly, so yeah, I can get that list off him, and we can start looking at, deploying groups in certain areas. Yeah, that's something we can do, Councillor.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, that was similar to what I was going to say about, obviously there's a number of these organised groups. I can rattle a few off. Is there a possibility to invite these groups to a meeting so you can coordinate and organise activity together? By working with them in partnership.
Yeah, well, it's a similar day when we did the litter picking for
Mark does quite a few of those.
Yeah, for the tap trail from Podstick all the way down to
that's activity based. I'm talking about agreeing with them what they do in their wards to help. If they're prepared to take on certain things, or when you want litter picks or want things done, you've got a name and a contact to call on.
Yeah.
It's working smarter together. That's what I'm saying.
I think Vamp have done something similar to that recently, haven't they? I think Vamp have got an element of trying to encourage volunteers as well. I've been to several Vamp meetings, and so that it's coordinating again with groups who perhaps are doing this kind of thing. You don't want to reinvent the wheel and duplicate what's being done. But what David said, I think, is important. But possibly, as well as Keep Wales Tidy, perhaps Vamp are another organisation which can help in this regard.
Yeah, and then possibly look at initiatives like tempo time credits, where they can earn credits for volunteering, so they can go and spend them elsewhere. I can give you some info on that as well.
You can, but I don't have money for the initiative. So unless the council's going to...
It's all free.
It's all free.
Is it?
Yeah.
So, I was just going to jump in then. Yeah, absolutely use volunteers is great, but you need the work schedules of where things are going to be cut. And then you need those volunteers going in either in the morning or the day before. So I'm not sure how easy that is or effective that's going to be to get those volunteer groups going in to litter pick before Mark's team goes in. In terms of the biodiversity areas, we go in ourselves and we litter pick it ourselves, so we've got that data. So as quite a lot of coordination that is to ask a volunteer group to go in to cut those areas, because you'll need obviously Mark's schedule of the whole of the borough, and then to find out those groups and the whole of the borough. So I think that's going to be ambitious for now, but it might be something you look for in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you maybe trial in certain areas rather than go borough-wide straight away. In terms of what you just said, you mentioned the word, I got it written down here, schedule. It would be really good for us to have a schedule of mowing. We used to have that previously. If we could have that, and then residents come to us and say, oh, this grass hasn't been cut, at least we can check, or it'll be next week or whatever.
So I think what you've got to kind of separate now is the biodiversity areas of grass and management that gets cut twice a year, and then you're talking about the rest of the borough being cut. So I think you need to kind of understand they're two very different types of cuts that are going on in the borough.
Yeah, and then if we add that into the schedule, that your biodiversity, they're going to be cut in April and September, and it's all on the same schedule, then we can tell them. Mark, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Yes, it's all about, as I say, the coordination. As Jill just said, it could be quite difficult around the biodiversity cuts and the scheduled cycle cuts. I was talking more in general about volunteers litter picking in general. It's not on a specific day or on a specific schedule, but it all helps, So if we could get that coordination going for general volunteering, then that could be a big help to what we're trying to achieve.
I got a couple of questions, not many. So on site selection, how were the 20 priority biodiversity areas chosen, and could more be added, and how the projects balanced with recreational needs of local residents?
So it's probably a question for both me and Mark, that is. So the sites itself have actually changed quite a lot, because I didn't choose the sites originally. That would have been Gerald Lewis, who obviously is no longer with us. And then I believe in 2021, Matt Davis went out and surveyed all the sites that we had, because we had more than 20, which we've got that data on. Then obviously fast forward to now, the sites that we have, we've surveyed again. So we have the data for the previous sites that we had, and some of them were of poor condition. So we took out a lot of the sites that were of poor condition and of like very little ecological value, and we've changed them recently. So we now have 20 sites in the borough of certain hectareage and of ecological value, basically. So we've added in a few new sites recently, and I know obviously they're of ecological value because they've been surveyed in the past anyway, but they've not, the new ones haven't been surveyed this year, and that would be Cyfarthfa Park, because previous ones that we took out were just really poor. So every single one that we've got, other than new ones that we've just recently put in, we have the data to show why they've been chosen. That was the first question. What was the other one? Sorry, Lee.
It is around community use, so biodiversity projects be balanced with recreational needs of local residents.
So some of those sites, which would have been like the big kind of football fields, say Teddington's fields, they had been mothballed, so they weren't being used anymore. So in terms of recreation and kind of sports facilities, they weren't being used anymore. So that's when we looked at them to see if we could transform them. In terms of recreation, Mark, we've still got an awful lot, and we work with Dan Bufton. One of my biodiversity sites recently has been taken out for Dan Bufton and sports and recreation. So we balance out what's being used for conservation and what's being used for sports.
Yeah, and I say, if I just follow on from Jill there, we've got to be careful when we decide to turn them into biodiversity sites. We've got to make sure that they're not required for recreational use, because to actually get them back into a standard that we need for recreation, it will cost us a lot of money. So we need to be sure which sites we actually commit to being biodiversity sites.
Yeah, it's just not just sport recreation, it's about community recreation as well, where, you know, children are playing and that type of thing.
So the incline is a really good example. So the incline basically was a dumping ground for fly tipping and huge bonfires. So for the last 2 years, I've spent nearly £1 million on transforming that site to also be a grassland management site, which it is down the bottom, and for recreational use. There are more people on that site now than there ever was in all the years that I've been here. It is not fly tip no more. People use it every day. The amount of people that I see with their children, because there's play at the top, there's walks, there's seating, there's ponds, there's interaction points there. It is a very successful story of having biodiversity and well-being and the recreation kind of hand in hand.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, just one, Chair. That leads on, Jill, to one of the things which, you know, links with what we did in the last cycle. You organised a series of visits. We went to Arcanid, I think we went to Trodrew Park, and we went to Triaris Park, and we were really interested, actually. I was enthused by everything that you were doing in those areas. Would it be possible to arrange something similar to a site? You mentioned the Inky, which my old stamping grounds. I'd love to see what you're doing up there. And, you know,
come and have a look.
You mentioned in your report. I'd like a guided tour, actually.
Yeah.
If I organise,
you know, Rocky Road is mentioned in your. I'm not sure what when we went last. You had plans for the old bowling green in Triaris Park.
You want to see that now? It's amazing.
Where some of us saw that last year when it was derelict and overgrown.
Did.
To see it now, we can see the development and the progression.
The vision. Yeah, you can see how good I am at my job then.
Bye-bye.
Blow your own trumpet.
We'll organise a minibus and, I'll work with you to get a day and we'll come around and do a few
Right.
signs.
Yeah.
Right. No other questions? Any comments? Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I just think, Chair, that we emphasise the point that we need to look at the situation. It doesn't make sense to me to have cut the grass and leave the grass cuttings there, which means that pollination's not taking place. And at the same time, if it is taken from there, it goes towards our tonnage for recycling, which we are desperately trying to get up to 70% by the 31st of March next year.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also composting on top, and then it's growing into the pathways as well. So it leads into other issues.
That's right.
Councillor Layton?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Jill and Mark, and we've been around these areas, and well done, Chair, because it is amazing work you do. And they do look fabulous. I was showing my grandchildren the one in Tydfil, the one you took us to, because we were on the train and they were saying, "What's that?" And I said, "I've been down there with Jill." But it's just such a shame with the resource side of it, because going forward, biodiversity is a big thing, recycling is a big thing, and we got targets to meet. And I think it needs to be looked at deeper in the resource side of it, and maybe then we can hit different targets, as Clive said. Is get this grass cleared up, but it's all about money and resources, isn't it? So
It really is. It's honestly, you would not believe how time consuming the grass cutting is, right? I mean, my team have been with Mark's team all week trying to get the tonnage done. The machinery itself can cost, £80,000. Do you know what I mean? Just for one machine. Now, thankfully, we got two because of my grants that I've actually paid for them over the last couple of years. But obviously, you've still got the upkeep. But for every site that you're cutting, you're looking at 3-4 men. Do you know what I mean? So I've got a small team. There's only 6 of us. So it impacts massively on what I'm doing as in the new projects. Mark's team, we take 2 or 3 people from his team as well, because you need a tractor driver and you need people to drive the actual machinery. So it is resources. It's very time consuming, but it's like April and September are optimum time to get these things done, which also is really difficult because come September, all the sports pitches then need marking out, all the Japanese knotweed then needs spraying. So when you've got a very small team of people, the coordination is very difficult and they get quite heated, really. Do you know what I mean? What's more important? Or what takes priority? Because you've got your targets, your 2 main council kind of targets of biodiversity and waste. Now, for me, I'm obviously going to advocate biodiversity and waste, which tie in nicely for me with your green waste targets. But then you've also got your well-being objectives, which are going to be your sports kind of activities, things like that. So it does come down to resource and it does come down to priorities, because sometimes they tie in at the same season, which is difficult. I mean, we're doing the best that we can, but if we add more staff to do these things or dedicate staff within those months, then it might be a little bit easier.
And I think also, like, we got 5 green flags up here, and I think if we had a conversation with Deck, he'd tell you it is hard cutting grass, because he does it mostly, or I go out and do some with him, and it is hard work, trying to maintain things. And
so quite a lot on our littlest sites, which are not in our green biodiversity sites, our actual ones, we actually rake it ourselves. And I know Declan was doing the high street for me. You've got to rake all that grass off. It is so labour intensive,
I think
and
he uses the mower, so it gathers it as he's going. He's got to push along.
So he needs to be careful that he's not chopping my bloody plants.
Oh, he's good. He's good. He knows his stuff now.
Right, guys, we're gonna have to move on. Sorry. Is there any other comments? No.
No, we report back for me.
Yeah. I just like to thank you all for coming and giving us an in-depth knowledge on grass cutting and biodiversity. I'd like to take you to the recommendation for scrutiny to note and debate the report and provide a critical friend challenge on the findings to support the implementation of the goals of the Merthyr Tydfil Nature Recovery Plan together with the Merthyr Tydfil Open Space Strategy. Did we address the recommendations? I think we give it a good
I think everyone discussed.
Yeah, bro. Okay, so you're welcome to stay or leave. No, I'm sure you'll go.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, councillors.
Take care,
Yeah.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, moving on. Agenda item 6, event policy. Zoe, you there? I think she is. I can see her there. It's on the top.
I'm here.
You are?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay, Jamie, are you?
Yeah, I'll introduce the report and me and Zoe obviously will try and answer anything. That's no problem. Right, thanks guys. So this is an opportunity for an open conversation, and we've been talking about this policy coming to the committee for some time. It's a very short preamble, we won't go through everything. But obviously the main body is obviously in Appendix 1. There's some useful stuff in the appendix you should be aware of. There's obviously the pro forma, the process you go through in terms of applying for things. There's the accountability framework in terms of where that will lie within the authority. You've also got the site allocations and the fees that will go with those sites as well. They're all in there for you to take a look at. What I will quickly say is I've got my own sort of like, upon reviewing again, my own little recommendation that I might look at in terms of the hierarchy, that if they engage with myself as member, whether or not we look at engaging with the ward members for the particular site as well. So that's something I've been thinking about, perhaps looking at changing as well. Just to go through the summary then, so 1.1, we've got the appointment of the Strategic Events Coordinator, which enabled the opportunity to review the existing events policy and create the new fit-for-purpose strategy that we've got in place to review now before full council. For 1.2, this report will give you the overview, as I said, of the summary of the progress made in relation to the preparation of this events policy and the next steps in terms of the implementation. But obviously the main thing that we're going to do today is the recommendation of 2.1, and that is let's consider the policy together that's in Appendix 1, which will outline, as I've said, the policy requirements for the delivery of the events on council land, and as a committee make any recommendations before the new policy is presented to full council for formal approval. But what I might say as well, Chair, is that obviously we'll take things on board now, but I don't know whether you want to put in a separate email just in case anyone comes up with anything after we leave committees to make sure that we cover everything, and if that goes direct to me and Zoe, just in case we do miss anything after we leave the meeting, we're very open to that as well. No problem. All right, thank you.
Zoe, do you want to add anything?
Yes, please. If I can just add to that, Councillor Scriven's right. This has been, I think, a long time coming. So, we're very grateful for your patience with this report. We were ready around this time last year to bring a report through, but there was additional work we needed to undertake around land and fees and charges, etc. So hopefully, we've addressed everything that was requested of us within this report. And again, yes, more than happy to receive comments after committee today. The likelihood is we'll take this report through in November, so we've got sufficient time to make any alterations, include any additions, make any amendments as per discussions in readiness for full council.
Okay. Thank you. Open up to questions. Councillor Layton?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Zoe. I got a question on 5.1 and events type, and you've got community volunteering groups, active recreation, that type of thing. So like active play, recreational walks and nature and all that. So that's something that community groups do, I think, including us. And I've been reading that it says they'll actually waiver, hang on a minute, event IFE would be waived, though they'd have to pay obviously the £50 initially. But then on the Appendix 4, it said all other charges would stand. So for a small community group to put together something around the lines of, like I said, the community, the activeness of that, because we get different groups. That's a lot of money for such a small group to find. And any group, not just one. I mean, right throughout the borough, because there is several groups. Could you just confirm, is that right?
Yes, for small scale groups, we do review fees and charges. So even when it comes down to something like the traffic management costs from the authority, we do look at not charging for smaller groups. But again, it does depend on the area of land. Like some of the groups that approach us as well, the smaller groups will go to perhaps smaller areas of land that we review as an ESA group that aren't necessarily identified within the policy as well. So it can be done on a case by case basis.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that. Like, perhaps it wouldn't be accepted. I mean, if it was accepted and they were doing an event then, a nature and all the football, skipping, whatever, on an event, on a site, they would waiver the initial event hire fee. But then when you look at all the maintenance side of it, because just for an example, when we have had an event, we arrange the toilets, we arrange the litter pick, and we arrange all that. But I'm looking at on Appendix 4 all these charges, and they all apply to even a small community group. And I believe one of them is, reinstatement deposit, £500. That's got to be paid up front, yeah? Now, a lot of groups haven't got that type of money. Am I right in saying that? Am I reading it right?
Sorry, what charge was £500?
It says for you, the reinstate
the deposit.
And it says all events, 500. I appreciate that you say they'll have it back, but surely if you're a small community group just trying to put something on for the children in the community, isn't that sounds a lot of money for a small group to have to try and gather on top of putting an event on that's free, to the children as well. I just wanted to clarify that. I am reading that right, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we
Okay.
can review that. I mean, we are looking at opportunities to, consider fees and charges in relation to events. But I think, I completely take on board what you're saying, and I think we can have a look at that in terms of some of the waivers that we do apply to these smaller scale groups, because it is difficult to deliver events in terms of costs.
Yeah.
I mean, we are looking at all events here, so we'll take that offline and review whether that will be applicable to even the smaller scale events.
It's just on a sustainable level, I'm saying. We want this to be sustainable and, encourage people. I mean, as a community group, I think that would be very difficult. Totally on board with organisations out there who want to put something on, then bring it to our town. And that's fine, raise the money. But I think when you live in the community and you live in a deprived part of that community, and you're trying to do something for them, not just my group, as I said, Lee have done it in his ward, and Billy, they award, Jeremy, I know Cyfarthur have done it. It's just £500 down. That £500 would probably go on what we'd need for that event. So is that okay? Yeah?
Yeah, we can review that. Yeah, okay. Most definitely.
Thank you.
Following on from what Councillor Layton said, I got really confused in terms of like the small events. Obviously, you need to clarify why you think is a small event. Is it in a local community centre doing some bingo? Because that's an event. If you go in on the wording of an organised public or social event that occurs in an identified place, going on that wording, that's everything. Or are you going on those six outdoor spaces?
It's on the spaces identified, Councillor.
That's the problem with it.
It doesn't say. I did a Google search. I did a search on it. It doesn't say outdoor on anything. So it needs to state that this is the events policy for our event spaces, because we're all having a panic, like Paula probably just did. We're going to do a bingo night for the old age in the local community centre, it's going to cost us £500. You've got the park run. That's an event. That's on public land. That type of thing. So he needs to clarify what you see as it's on Cleveland site. It's on Penderyn Square. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we'll clarify that. This policy is aligned to events on our land, so it's not going to look at if you're hosting a bingo event in a local community centre, as an example. I mean, any event would be organised directly and wouldn't necessarily be coming through ESAG or through our team to discuss it as necessarily an event, if that makes sense. So I'm happy to put more clarity around that if you feel that that's needed.
Yeah, I think we all do, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Thomas, Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you cleared up that point, because that was one of my concerns as well. But going on to the land that's there, the spaces that's been identified in the report, one that we've used in the past is not there. The forecourt of the castle, as you'll remember, we worked very hard on the man engine project there, and Chair as well, we were speaking to promoters about bringing concerts to the forecourt of the castle. Is there a reason why that's not included, Zoe?
Yeah, there is, Councillor. What we've done for the purpose of this policy is we've identified areas of land that we can hold events on. So we've looked at land right across the county borough that we might have used for events in the past, as you've mentioned, the forecourt, that we've had to rule certain areas out because of the number of constraints. Now, if you take the forecourt, there are, particularly in the immediate short medium term, a number of constraints around having events on that space. For example, ecology. There are also going to be a number of works happening within that direct vicinity over the next few months. So at this point in time, that isn't an area that we can look at. So it has been excluded from within the policy. But if there is a time that we are able to bring that area back in, we will add it into the policy. Because of the number of constraints, it's been removed, because we wouldn't want to advertise a space that has a number of constraints, and it's going to be difficult for any event organisers to arrange an event on that site.
Thanks, Sean. The second question I got is regarding the timings for large events going through the ESAG process. In the report, they mentioned 6 months. Now, no, I'm not a promoter, but it'd be good. Like I know the chair has worked with many promoters over the years. If a program or a tour is coming along, how much notice would they need to give the council? Is 6 months too short a period, or too long a period, or sometimes could they fit something in if it was that important or it's that big, but they didn't come for us but 4 months before the event? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, so including this as like a sort of general rule, so it's initial contact with the team. There would be sufficient time then to have the support with the event management plan, etc. But we also need to be very mindful of the fact that there are processes that we need to follow from an ESAG perspective as well. So we need sufficient time to ensure any licenses are in place and that all of the requirements of ESAG are in place. So it's initial contact with us in a 6-month period. I mean, many of the large scale events that come through are ones that we've had year on year on year. So, we're prepared, the event organizer is prepared. But if we've got somebody new coming in, as an example, the earlier we are notified, the better, because we do need sufficient time to prepare a robust management plan. But it's being very, very mindful of the ESAG requirements. So, for example, if we've got someone, wanting to arrange a large-scale event in a 3-month period, from an ESAG perspective, that starts to get a little bit more tricky in terms of all of the information that we need to satisfy in order to deliver that event. but the event management plan is very, very helpful from an ESAG perspective. So it was one of the appendices that you would have received as part of the report pack. Effectively, what that enables the event organiser to do is include as much detail as possible prior to ESAG reviewing that information. So it allows us to focus on that additional detail that is needed to satisfy the requirements.
Thanks, all.
Paul, did you want to come in on that? Okay.
Yeah, just to support from an ESAG perspective, Councillor Thomas, if you're looking at a large-scale event that would require, say, a full premise licence, what we would advise is obviously for that event organiser, they've got to factor in ticket selling. So the risk they've got is the longer they leave it or closer to the event space, they run the risk of having to apply for a licence, for instance, through the authority to run a large-scale event. If that application had objections or representations, we'd have to facilitate the licensing committee. So we'd have to put in the time for that committee. And obviously they've got to run this parallel with selling tickets. So there's a risk to them that they may end up selling tickets for an event that they run the risk committee or a magistrate's court even may not approve. So what we advise is give yourself as much time as you can so you can secure your licence and still have a period to sell your tickets. So the closer they leave that to the event date, they're balancing or could be balancing running a licence application that there's no guarantee they'll get while selling tickets for the event. So the longer space they leave for these big scale events, it helps the organiser. And for our blue light partners, South Wales Policing for instance, they've got to build their rotas 6 months in advance. So if there is a large-scale event that needs a police presence, they need to build that in to the rota and the having adequate blue light availability. So just to add some clarity on what top was that we had said.
Yeah, I think Councillor Thomas has alluded to say somebody's going to Glastonbury and they need a smaller venue to a smaller event to play, and it's a short notice turnaround. Paul McCartney got in touch with the Red House prior to playing Glastonbury about 2 or 3 years ago. So they went to 10 different venues to see what availability was. So it's that type of thing. Something you're going to sell tickets for, no matter how quick you put it out there. So I think as long as there's a little bit of leeway that you don't want to turn events away so.
Yeah, there'll always be the exception that obviously if they go into a venue that's already licensed, for instance, and licensing isn't a consideration, that would cut down that 6 month period. So yeah, it's not set in stone, but I think if somebody was starting afresh and wanted to run a large scale event in Merthyr, we would say that allow yourself that sufficient 6 month period. But yeah, there'll always be something that will come along that will be assessed on its merit and whether it's doable. So yeah, there's always that guarantee, Lee.
Yes, thanks, Paul. Councillor Jones.
Yes, because...
Sorry, could I just add as well, sorry, Councillor, I think, we've tried to look at realistic timescales as well to ease the pressure on the event organiser, so they are fully aware of the processes and everything that they need to undertake, so they've got plenty of time to work with ESAG or any relevant officers to ensure that everything is in place for that event and it isn't sort of rushed on the back end. So we try to ensure, yes, supporting, as Paul said, our blue light partners, etc. But it is to benefit overall the event organiser to have that lead-in time, really.
Yeah, I understand all that and what Paul has just told us as well. But for example, there's a number of events usually take place on the Pandy Field within the grounds of Cyfarthfa Park. I mean, the last thing we want to do, I would have thought, as a local authority, is to say to people who can wrap everything up and give you a notice, say, for, 3 to 4 months to say, you've got to be exactly 6 months, otherwise we're not going to consider you at all. So, one, we're going to lose income for the local authority, and two, you're probably going to have an event there that, whatever it is, people will be very interested, will be moved to another local authority not a million miles away.
Yeah, as I said at the start, councillor, it is a guide. We are asking that they come in to us within a 6-month period. There have been occasions where that hasn't necessarily been the time scale followed in the past. The benefit, I think, of having this policy adopted will enable us to publicise this widely. It will be on our website, it will be available to anyone who makes contact with us for them to understand all the requirements of delivering a large scale event as well. Because as Paul said, there are going to be specific timelines that need to be met in order to deliver the event. And sometimes, as highlighted within the policy, there's additional information that may be required to support that event as well. As an example, using your example, if I was to hold a large-scale event on Pandy Field, there could be additional ecology considerations that we need to look at, or additional noise mitigation that we need to consider. So I think having this policy in place that we can share will be very helpful. But the 6 months, it's not going to necessarily stop any event organiser coming forward and we say from an ESAG or a council perspective, you haven't come in within 6 months, it's sort of game over. But we want them to have the longest lead-in time possible to meet any of the requirements that we might stipulate as the ESAG.
So there is a bit of little leeway there for applications for various reasons come in and wouldn't comply with the full 6 months.
Yeah.
Right. I want to pursue this point about which events come under this policy, which don't, and it's been talked about earlier on. But under the introduction under 1, if you just go down there, it says this policy applies to, it's 3 dots there, all events being held on council land, and this is the important one, where it needs to be crystal clear in this policy so that people know it doesn't apply to them. But it's got here, this policy applies to events within the Merthyr Tydfil area on private land, requested input from the Events Safety Advisory Group. For example, I would argue that holding a church fair or chapel fair in the centre of the town is on private land, but until that's spelled out here, that doesn't apply to them. That wording needs to be completely, perhaps altered and fully clarified. Otherwise, you're going to get an awful lot of people who are involved in all sorts of events who are going to come to you and say, do we have to fill this form in? Do we have to pay these fees? It needs to be crystal clear, I would say, in there.
Okay, we can look at the wording of that. If I can just give an example. So this policy, as it states here, any event held on council land, they need to work with the events team and come through ESAG. Events on private land don't. But an example of a private event that comes through ESAG and is very beneficial to us as the local authority and our ESAG partners and the event organiser themselves is the Trago fireworks event.
All right.
So if you recall a few years ago, there were a number of issues when the event was first delivered up at Trago with traffic management.
Yeah.
So since that point, the event organiser has worked with us to ensure that, we've looked at a robust delivery of that event, and that's benefited us and them, and the event is delivered in a much more successful way. So it's larger scale events like that on private land that we would encourage to come forward and work with us. But if you were having a faith on private land, the example that you gave, they would not necessarily, they wouldn't need to liaise with ESAG.
That's what it needs to say.
Yeah, but I think everybody agrees here. it needs to be particularly carefully worded and explicitly clarified so that people reading this will know right from the start it doesn't apply to them.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe give examples, you know, church fair, you know, local football club's going to do end of season day, barbecue, bouncy castle, it's on council, football pitch, I got to do this policy. Well, you know, you're just going to have people panicking left, right and centre.
Yeah, we can clarify that, no problem.
Okay, so
I think I think in regards to our own land, I think we can clarify that quite easily just by saying within that line, all events on council land outlined in Appendix 3. Obviously, we just need to re-clarify the private lands, which I think, like, so the guys will have a look at.
To see them going through reams of this.
Yeah, no, I understand reading it.
First page where it is at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we are talking about things like church fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perhaps carol concerts. Head out in the garden.
You'd have a sports day for schools.
Yeah. All sorts of smaller events. Can I get? I got one other question and a suggestion on page 79. It's Appendix 2, and it's Merthyr Tydfil accountability role. You got right at the top there, elected members. Engagement will take place with the cabinet member for events on any unusual or contentious applications, and they may be involved in discussions regarding refusing permission for an event on council land. Is there a possibility, because, you know, members of the public, if they've been turned down, for example, who are they going to turn to? Usually the local ward members. So could, you know, be added there that the ward members could also be involved or informed about this as well as the cabinet member?
I said at the start, Councillor Jones, that was something that I had picked up upon doing again, and I want to change that myself. I think it's added benefit in the ward members for the particular site that's been identified being involved. And I understand that would be, even if it was in my own area, there's not many spaces in my own area, but if there were, I would be concerned myself if they came back and we hadn't been engaged. So I think that I want that kind of engagement on those particular contentious applications that ward members engage with myself as well.
Right, okay, thank you. I think Zoe's said that would be added to it.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, Councillor. We'll add that in.
Okay,
it makes sense.
Any other questions?
Let's go one.
No, we carry on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. So we in the report, and referring to 7.3, it mentions an events page will be created on the Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council website, providing sufficient detail on event development delivery. How do you envisage that event page looking? What will that entail? Will that include links to the forms? Will it include links to particular personnel? Will it advertise events or not?
Well, it will include the policy, so we'll be able to direct any event organisers directly to the policy, to any of the relevant forms. In terms of advertising any events, probably not, because we do have a Visit Merthyr site managed by our destination management team. So they would advertise anything from an event perspective for Merthyr. So the likelihood is we'd continue down that route with them, for them to be advertising the events and us to be a specific information-based page around how you develop and deliver an event in line with the policy.
Okay, so this would be process and procedure and potentially advice as well?
Yes.
So you go to for specific advice? Okay.
Yeah, so we've got a strategic events coordinator, so their details will be on there, so they'll be able to have direct access then for any support for events. So we already provide that, but we'll be able to provide our event inbox details for them to be able to contact us directly as well.
Thank you. Could I just suggest that on behalf of the committee that page includes something similar to what Councillor Davis and Councillor Jones have said that this particular policy does not apply to you if you're running a very small scale event held on your own private land. Because I think I've discussed this with my wife, who's a church secretary. She was very, very concerned over it because she thought, goodness, we're not going to be able to do any of this in the future. And I think that's the fear. So allaying people's fear very early on with regard to the policy, but also with regard to something online, I think is an important thing to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. The paragraph or the bullet points at the very start that we've agreed to review the wording on, we can pull that out onto the main page, so it's very specific if you were navigating through that part of our website to know whether you need to work with us on an event management plan or not.
Yeah, you've got very good flow charts somewhere in your report, the first question is, are you organising an event of particular size on particular land, and if not, go and watch telly.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
I got one question which I should have asked for clarification. It's on page 73, under 18, licensing. And this refers to temporary event notices. It says there, if the event involves alcohol, entertainment, and or late night refreshment, hot food and drinks served between 11 p.m. and 5 p.m. and the event will be under 499 people. I presume that what we're referring to there is a late night license. Have you had applications in the past where you had a temporary event which is held until 5 o'clock in the morning? You might have had, but I
Illegal ones, maybe.
Yes.
Perhaps I can come in there, Clive. I think, in fairness, what's always done is covered what the legislation says.
Right.
I can't recall any that we've had for purely refreshment purposes beyond 11 till 5. But let's say, for instance, as an example, on Penderyn Square, somebody wanted to hold an event which was alcohol-free, which was a music event, but they wanted to serve refreshments after 11 a.m. then 11 p.m. Then that's where this part of the policy would kick in.
Right.
I can't think of any that we've had. No.
I can't see the events or organisers or ESAG agreeing to that being there till 5 o'clock.
Silent disco, Clive.
I don't know what any discos. I just can't see that happening, to be honest. So
no, I think that's just lifted from the legislative guidance.
Okay. Yeah, you clarified it. Thanks.
I got a couple of questions. Regarding the policy, obviously it's going to go to full council after this. How often do you see it coming back to scrutiny?
I'd be happy to bring it back on an annual basis should committee be happy with that. As I said earlier, there might be things we need to review, address. If there are significant changes within an agreed period, again, I'm happy to bring that back to scrutiny as and when, or I'm absolutely happy to be guided by yourselves on how frequently you'd like it to come back. I mean, we can liaise, and if there are no significant changes, we can review whether it needs to come back.
I think it should come back within the next calendar year. Potentially maybe like a January if it's like a Christmas event or something like that. So I think that would everybody agree with that?
Yes, I think perhaps it's got to go to council. Let's say 12 months from the date it goes to council.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it'd be good for you as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Two more. So promoting the sites, how will we do that? Are we waiting for promoters to come to us, or how do we go about promoting our sites to promoters outside?
We have started looking at this again. We have been holding off to ensure we had the policy in place. So I think we are going to start really trying to promote Merthyr something we want to hold additional events now. It's something that we really want to push for Merthyr. We held a large scale successful event this year, so I think, you know, more further opportunities to deliver those kind of events will be excellent for the economy. So we're going to start trying to promote in our land once the policy has been adopted. We just wanted to ensure that Scrutiny and Council were happy with the areas of land that we'd included in the policy before proceeding with that, really.
Okay, thank you. And just on that, I think, no, it's always bang on the money. I know, as an example, we've had conversations about, obviously, the public concerns on what sites we use and what's available. You know, as people have come forward to myself as well, asking questions, and you know, it is all a case of making sure that we had that proper thread in place to be able to go back with a full framework and say, actually, yeah, this is everything, the application forms, all the different processes, rather than just going forward and not having a clear plan in place of what we wanted to do. You know, and as soon as this is approved, you know, it'd be great to have all that in place, the website with all this information, and obviously we'll change the Appendix 1 now in the report to make sure that there's a clear outline of who needs to actually look at this. But yeah, we wanted everything to be properly in place before we smash forward with a marketing perspective.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. We all want events in the borough, so good luck. Last question. I can't believe I'm the only one asking this last. Cleveland site.
I
waited to the end. I thought somebody was going to ask it. What is the plan? Because I don't see any events being planned. What we were expecting to be the new event site in the town centre, and it hasn't materialised.
Okay, so I was expecting a question on Cleveland as well, so I was wondering when it was coming. So just to be very clear on Cleveland, okay. So the Cleveland site, we developed it as an open public space to provide options for, you know, smaller scale events such as markets, community events, etc. So when we initially went out to consultation on that site, we were clear that it was for the smaller scale events, and that Penderyn Square would remain the key site for larger scale events such as Christmas lights switch on, food festival, etc. So we've done a lot of work over the past few months to ensure that we are starting to ramp up the number of events on that site. So the team with responsibility for the operational management of that site now is St. Tydfil Shopping Centre. So they are looking at a number of events for that site over the next 6 months. So I believe there is a plan in place for the number of events happening between now and the end of the financial year. So I'm happy to share that with committee after this meeting. So that will show what events are going to be held. So we are having a bit of a trial on that site as the local authority for the remainder of this financial year. And then what we'll do next year, we'll advertise that site to the public, basically. So if there's any event organisers or, you know, community groups, etc., that want to hold something on that site, then they can engage with the shopping centre team. So events, I agree, council, have been limited to date, but they will start to ramp up from this month onwards now.
Yeah, and just on that, Chair, I'll just add as well, you know, it's a difficult area because obviously Cleveland was in position as administration's changed over as well, so there were already things in place, and I had to get my head around how it would work as well. And in fairness, Sarah, I've been with Sarah in the shopping centre, and we've spoken about different things. Sarah had the idea about as you saw, the car boot sale that went on, so things like that. So there are things in place, just an understanding of what that space would have been used for. And in fairness, I've been with Sarah for a couple of places now, and we're constantly looking at what are other authorities doing, what can we use that's similar to that space, as well as making sure there is a plan in place. Like with the indoor market, when that opens up, we'd love for everything to fall in line properly, and we've got the Christmas market set up on the space, and it all links up with the indoor market and what will happen with that, you know. So we're looking at it, and like so we said, once we get everything over, we'll share it with everyone so you can see what the plan is over the next couple of months in terms of what will happen on that site.
Darren, do you want to come in?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'm a little bit confused now because a year last August, we were having meetings in the Orbit Centre talking about the Cleveland site, and I was going to be a major event site. We were talking about Christmas light switch-ons, etc., etc. So when did it all change? So when did it all become the smaller site then? When did all that occur?
Yeah, we'd always identified this site as a smaller scale site. I think on the request of the administration then, we tried to look at whether we could relocate the Christmas event there. But as you can probably remember, Councillor, there were a number of constraints that were limiting us in holding that event there from an ESAG perspective. So we've maintained that view of retaining it as a smaller scale event site, retaining then all of those larger scale events on Penderyn Square, where we know it works and it's worked year on year for a number of years now. So I think it's always been identified as that smaller scale site. We've sort of tested that idea, but it doesn't necessarily lend itself to hold those larger events.
I think my recollection, I think Cabinet's recollection of that time would be slightly different to yours. So, if you remember that Christmas, there were pressures on us that the site wouldn't be ready for that Christmas, and we left it. But it was always our plan for that site to be the major events area in the town centre.
What makes that different? Sorry, to Penderyn Square then? What's stopping major events going there? You've got roads either side of Penderyn Square, and there's there's one there.
So in terms of the site itself, we do have, there's a lot of, the layout of the site, I don't think necessarily works for a larger scale event. So we've done a number of assessments with a number of officers from within the local authority. So the site layout doesn't necessarily work. We do also have weight restrictions on that site, which is going to limit us in terms of what we can hold on there. So the Penderyn Square will remain the key site for the Christmas event. Also, the infrastructure around Penderyn Square works so much better because we've got enough space to hold the amount of people that attend that event as well.
I thought that space looks bigger to me myself personally. Is the weight restrictions due to having the material that's on the floor?
It's the surfacing, yes.
Yeah.
Councillor Joe,
yeah. So are we coming back to the stick with the weight restriction at the moment? Was that known at the date that Councillor Geraint Thomas is referring to? Was that known by everybody?
No.
That there was weight restrictions at that time?
No.
So that's happened, I don't know, so sometime after that they found out that there was weight restrictions. Is that correct?
Upon completion of the site.
When it was fully completed. So the material the chairs referred to, clearly that must have been in the building of the site that was well known, or should have been well known. The type of material they were put in there wouldn't hold, for example, the weight of a heavy vehicle.
I apologies, I'm not aware of any sort of spec at the time, but we were made aware of the restrictions. It's not going to restrict, all of the events on that site. We are going to be able to hold events on there. And as someone mentioned, apologies, I can't remember who, we've had car boot sales, etc. We'll be able to hold markets on there. It's larger weighted vehicles, but even the layout of the site is prohibiting us from holding larger events on there.
You just mentioned about there's plans up till the end of the financial year, what's going to go on there.
Yeah.
And it's fine if it's sent to the school committee, but I got a funny feeling that the public would be very interested on what's planned there in the next few months. Was it the intention to broadcast this to the general public?
They are advertised by St Tydfil Shopping Centre and Corporate Comms, and I'd like to think our other partners are promoting our events as we do theirs, for example, the Business Improvement District. So they are already advertised.
It's out there at the moment, is it?
If for the events that are coming up, I
Yeah.
don't know if we've necessarily issued the proposed forward plan, as I don't know if everything is all in place ready. But
Yeah.
any of the events that are due to be held, they are advertised by the shopping centre through the St Tydfil Shopping Centre website and by Corporate Comms through our Merthyr Council website.
Right. I haven't been made aware. Well, I'm not aware that there is a plan from now until March that then these events are well known out there by the public.
Yeah, if you could share that would be great, because I don't think any of us know of any of the events, to be honest.
No.
Yeah, what I'll do, I'll ask for the plan and to update, at what point we are in the process. For example, are they already arranged? Are they in the process of being arranged? And I'll ask for further detail on the advertising of any event as well. For example, how far in advance and where it is going out. And I know it's going out on our local platforms, but I'll double check if there's anywhere else. And I can share that information with yourselves accordingly then.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Chair. Big concern I'm Joey about the grievance site. I worked on the grievance site for years, as you know, right? But we spend a lot of money on it overall. And now we can't use it what we want to use it. Do we claim against the company that done it? Are we got any rights to look forward to take it forward? Because no, we did that, and the public are talking to us and we say you spend money on that. We changed it all as a site. I'm ready for what we will put on it, and then we can't use it that for hardly anything. You know, I know we got car boot sales and you got that. And that wasn't paid for that. That was there for a purpose.
Yeah.
Centre of town, but also in the centre of town, next to the shopping precinct, to build a new town up. Because to be honest, you know my feeling. Once you start doing the town, that area might change, and you've got to change, right? But what happened to the funding? You know, they've done the job and they walked away.
Yeah, I going on the back of what Councillor Smith says, like I think the other councillors, I can't speak for them all, but myself, we were led to believe it was going to be one thing and it's turned into something else. We were led to believe it was going to be, big events on there. And then I seen the resin flow going down and thinking, you're not going to put a stage on there. And so, yeah, it is a bit of a concern when so much money was spent, and it is a little bit of a white elephant at the moment. So I don't think we will.
Oh, apologies. So what we're looking to do is host as many events on there as we can, albeit the smaller scale events. So if we had, as an example, a large scale event on Penderyn Square, we always complement that by running an activity in the shopping centre anyway. So we'd still look then to put something on Gleebland, so you've got that complete flow around town, because ordinarily if we have something on Penderyn Square, we have the artisan market that comes down to Lloyd's Bank there within the road closure. So we'd have that all round town event. Holding the small scale events on Gleebland means that we can have events a lot more frequently. So we're hoping to have something on there, as many weekends of the year as possible to continue that footfall and that activity on that site. If it was exclusive to large scale events, then again, we wouldn't be having these smaller scale events on there. So we'll either be looking to complement the larger events or try and have something on there, as many weekends we can a month to get that footfall constantly on the area.
All right. If you could send us the diary events, that would be a great start. Thank you. I don't think there's any other questions. Any comments?
No, I think interesting what we try to do in the town. And I think the people want it now, because we've been on about for a long time, the Gabriel Street, the 2 squares you got, Gabriel Street, Canis Rowlands on the top one. So people need something like on the weekend because they can't, it's nothing happening, it's dead. Well, we've got a lot of younger generation come in want to see a bit of action in town, and not being just, oh, all go to Cardiff, all go to Swansea. Can we change the image?
Chair, it's the events policy has been a long time coming, and it's been waited for. You need an events policy. It'll be interesting to see if it's got to be tweaked over the 12 months from when council adopts it. But you need one. I'm sure every other authority around us has got an events policy, and I look forward to it, working as it should.
I could comment. Yeah, go on. It's Jordan. Go on.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor. I think it would be very useful to bring it back to committee within the 12 months as agreed. I think when we created the policy back last year, as I said, there was a bit of a delay around the land review and the fees and charges. We have already had to amend the policy, I think, as we've implemented, for example, the new paperwork, etc. There's a lot of lessons learned and amendments we've needed to make to that policy. So should there be any changes within that 12-month period, we'll keep a record of those, and we'll be able to update you when we bring that report through. Yeah. Because it was surprising how much we've needed to change it between then and now to bring it to committee today, actually.
Okay. This is a bit of a question. I do apologise. I try and frame it as a comment about maybe testing it with some external larger promoters, sending it to them for comments as well.
You know, don't I?
Yeah, I don't think everything all right? Yeah, great. Thank you for coming and answering our questions. I take everybody back to recommendation to consider the events policy at Appendix 1, outlining the policy requirements for the delivery of events on council land, and make any recommendations before the new policy is presented to full council for formal approval. Everybody happy? We addressed those recommendations. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. We look forward to seeing it in full council with the suggested amendments. Thank you for attending.
Joey, you can smile now. Hi, Joey, you can smile now. That's better.
You want to smile?
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, forward work programme, agenda item 7. Myself and Councillor Jones met with Ellis, Sarah and Zoe earlier to discuss the miners' hall and so we sort of come to a bit of an agreement. We had a bit of a discussion for about 45 minutes. They initially wanted to do an information report saying there wasn't any updates or anything, so we were like, that's not good enough. So we asked for the meeting. What we decided was we'd have a warts and all workshop followed by scrutiny. So what they're saying is there's certain things they can't disclose within the scrutiny workshop to the general public. So we can discuss that in a workshop, and then we can go, we can ask any questions within scrutiny that we want, but we're going to move a few items around. So we do the 3 on the same day. We'll probably be moving I can't remember what they are, but one of the reports from November to December, and then moving those two to November.
Safety one.
So we'll have the three that we're talking about in one, and they're looking for the workshop to try and coordinate with everybody on the scrutiny committee to make sure we got the right day and time. But it'll be later on in October sometime, and we've told them to avoid the half-term week.
Yeah, so the week before half-term. Half-term is the last, so I think half-term is 25th, Monday 25th of October, so the week before that. Okay, I know you've got stuff on. Is it every morning you do something now, or no? Can you do a Friday morning? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the day that we mentioned a Friday morning.
Is a Friday morning for those who are that's a year now? Is a Friday morning a problem?
What time are you looking at on a Friday morning?
10.
Sorry?
10 o'clock.
Or what time will you?
Obviously, I'll say yes, but if something comes up on the mayor side, then obviously I won't be able to. But other than that, if it's after the school run, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes. Oh yeah. We wouldn't have it any earlier. No.
10 till 12, and hopefully, like we've asked for all officers that we need to be there. So Judith has promised us that.
What date was that you looking at, Lee?
Something like the 20. I want to say something like the 22nd. I'll have a look now.
Yeah.
The week before the holiday, is it?
24th is a Friday.
24th then. 24th of October. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right. So when the schools go back, I'm on holidays then for 9 days.
Ah, lovely. You just come back, man. Goodness sake.
Yeah. Oh, my wife had holidays. I'd be gone again now.
You enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like all my own, mate.
Oh, do we boring?
I don't think she'll let you do that, John.
If we go in for the, are we talking about the 24th? Yeah.
You okay?
I'm fine, but I'm not far away. But I got to give blood at 10:10 there.
Oh, so we're for 10:30 or so there.
No.
So, yeah.
I'll be here, but I'll be just a few minutes late.
All right, no problem. Okay. I think.
Can you ask Neil to put that in the diary ASAP then, please?
Yeah, he's got it down by you,
Yeah, I'll get out tomorrow. Yeah.
Can do it right now.
Okay, the next group is some significant. Well, we've some of the notes are on here. We've not relevant now. Corporate risk register item will be due to be presented either in a form of a formal report or workshop. Do you have any ideas when I've said them?
I think we need to clarify. The last time we had the conversation with Andrew, I think we were looking at November time-ish, but we just need to confirm that really, and how we want it really.
Okay. The quarterly technical meeting is being held next week. You'll receive a copy of the latest Cabinet Council plan soon. If there are any items you would like to discuss during the meeting, to potentially. Would we have that before the technical?
Yeah, I sent you this morning.
I have been on Sunday.
The wording be better now than they've been over the last couple of months, because some of you can't read some of the writing what they've got to read on the report on what we're going to discuss on the quarterly.
We have there was nothing on the regen the last
one. Right, and we're having it all the time. We can't see it right then. I can't. Blind the butt.
Yeah, the two things sent out today on email. Yeah, couldn't read. It was too small.
Is it right? Yeah. I'll have a look at the print tomorrow, see if we can get it out of you.
But the tech one is just for you and me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No. So if anybody's got any. When they've read what's gone out, if they want us to discuss anything, just let us know.
Yeah.
Item agenda 8, scrutiny referrals. There are no referrals. An LDP workshop was held last week. This is item agenda 9, sorry. Short feedback report will be published next scrutiny, but then nobody wants anything to discuss from last week. No, I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah. Item agenda 10, any other business deemed urgent by the chair. I'll just read a note there. No, I don't have any.
I think just to add, the one thing we learned of those of us were there in the LDB workshop is the outline planning application for 440 properties down at the Hoover site. Craig Watkins said that hoping that will come into the planning committee. That's what he said, by the end of the year. That's what he said, didn't he?
Yeah.
By the end of the year.
Yeah.
So that's, that'll be a big one that a lot of people have been waiting for.
Definitely. All right, I'd like to bring a meeting to a close. Thank you all for attending. Have a lovely Tuesday evening.
What's left of it?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, yeah.
Bye all.
Good luck. Take care. Welcome to one of my meetings.